Turning a connection into a relationship does not have to be epic drama made up of endless games and rules to remember. It is often the small and subtle things men pay attention to before they decide if they want to invest or not. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to quietly and strategically pull back, disappear in the right way, and use silence to set boundaries that make a man recognize you as wife or girlfriend material early on. I will walk you through some of the typical scenarios around conflict management, setting boundaries without coming across as hard work, and putting a boundary in place when there is a slight infraction that you may not have otherwise realized was a test. So today, I'm going to show you exactly how to end confusion in dating and navigate your connections with Black Swan confidence. Let's start with point number 1. Conflict resolution can set you apart as a once-in-a-lifetime woman or a temporary indulgence. Have you ever had one of those moments in early dating where there's a difference of opinion in an area that means a lot to both of you? Even though you thought you resolved it, something changed afterwards. He became distant. Things were just not the same. You tried to be nicer, softer, more giving, and maybe even asked what was wrong, but you could not close the gap. My client Charlotte was dating the man of her dreams in every way except one. He was very opinionated, had strong convictions, and was a little red pill for my liking. She loved his discipline and his certainty, but she really struggled with some of his views on relationships. He treated her well, but at times he spoke like a man who would spend too much time in toxic manosphere spaces. One night, he was visiting her at home, and a conversation became heated. He raised his voice higher than she felt comfortable with. Charlotte remembered my teaching. Do not meet a man there. Do not rise with him. Do not try to out-argue him. She waited for him to finish 5 seconds to make sure he was done, then calmly told him she was very tired and would be making her way to bed. She told him he was welcome to finish his drink, make himself comfortable, and lock the door on the way out. Then she stood up, kissed him on the forehead, and went to bed. She was furious, and a part of her wanted to end the connection there and then. She had mastered her emotions enough to not perform her rage. Long story short, he left, and the next time they met, she behaved as though things were normal. She was warm, feminine, and completely herself. He, on the other hand, was on his best behavior. He was careful, reverent almost, watching his every move. When he realized she was not going to bring it up, he did. He asked her if he had made her feel unsafe and admitted that he felt like an absolute idiot and had not been able to forgive himself for the way he had behaved. Not only did he never raise his voice to her again, he started talking about marriage. He told her he'd never met a woman who could handle conflict so respectfully. You see, Charlotte disappeared from his life in an elegant, micro way, just enough to let him know what she would tolerate without dysregulating herself further and without disrespecting him. Men do not mind being held accountable by a woman, but they respond far better to communication that leads to consequences rather than harsh words. A man's primary communication language is action. He shows you what he feels through his actions, and he reads your actions to understand how you feel about him. Quietly pulling back through your behavior while keeping your energy warm is exactly the kind of high-value response that makes a man set you apart for real investment. Point number 2. He stops texting good morning and expects you to chase. You meet a man, there's chemistry. He messages you every day, and you get used to that dopamine hit. Then one day, he goes quiet. You're confused and wondering if you should text him or wait. You start spiraling. You genuinely were not expecting this. Men have dealt with all types of women who use them for attention, free entertainment, money, and casual access. And because too many men do not know how to read energy or use discernment, they go to internet gurus who tell them to stop pursuing and see if the woman chases. Apparently, that is meant to tell how interested she is. In reality, this kind of behavior with a healthy, well-meaning woman usually just triggers her attachment wounds and makes her feel unsafe. Jan posted a conversation in my Soulmate Lux group. It was from a man who had been texting and dating. They had already been on 2 dates. He had fallen off, and when he did not hear from her, after a number of days, he eventually reached out and admitted he had started to feel she was not interested because he was always the one initiating. He told her he had hoped she would reach out because he really liked her. This is how Jan responded. She said, "Hey ho hey, I really enjoy speaking with you, and spending time with you is always very special. I feel safe and soft when the man I am dating initiates conversations and dates in the early stages. Once I'm in a committed relationship, I feel much more comfortable initiating. I hope to continue enjoying your company and getting to know you better." What can I say? My swans learned fast. Of course, he was more than happy to oblige. She did not panic and text him first. She did not react, shame him, or try and put him in his place when he finally reached out. She simply fell back, waited for him to resurface, and then set a communication standard. This is not about entitlement, then showing up to the date offering very little. Jan had always been respectful, warm, feminine, and delightful in person, and that is why she had built enough goodwill to pull back and set a standard without losing connection. Here's the lesson. If you show up as a high-value, feminine, delightful woman in your interactions with a man, you build the equity to set standards that some men might otherwise call unreasonable. Men weigh the return on investment in every interaction. He will ask himself what he stands to lose by allowing you to walk away. If being with you feels special enough, he is very unlikely to choose his ego over a real chance at a committed connection, especially when you have not disrespected him along the way. Point number 3, disappear into silence when he disrespects you. Have you ever been on a date and a man starts being disrespectful or making you feel a little uncomfortable, but because you like him and you see potential, you stay and try to ride it out? I was once on a date with a gentleman I met on my way to a coffee shop. He stopped his car and came over to speak to me, politely asked me out to lunch. Seeing as he was rather good looking, okay, gorgeous, and I had nothing better to do, I said yes. Our schedules did not allow lunch, so it became dinner. Immediately, the test began. Before we had even got very far, he suggested that the type of cuisine that he liked was only really worth having at his home. He clearly had no idea who he was dealing with. Instead of reading him his rights, I simply smiled and told him that as tempting as that sounded, I would feel more comfortable meeting somewhere public. He responded reasonably and booked a very nice restaurant. On the date itself, he was locked and loaded. He asked my age almost immediately, then began talking about wanting 8 more children. Then he looked at me and said, "Don't worry, we can use a surrogate." Honestly, I found it funny. He had no idea who I was. He was clearly younger, ambitious, incredibly attractive, and in excellent shape. I knew the way to handle him was to disappear into warmth and silence. Not silence as punishment, silence as poise. I smiled, responded lightly, and gave him just enough. When he talked about his dreams, I simply said, "Oh, how lovely for you. I'm sure you would make a wonderful father." Smile. You see, he was testing me. He is a man with many options, and he wanted to know if I was going to react like all the other women he had dated. He simply could not get a rise out of me. I remained warm, soft, and composed. At the end of the evening, he offered to drive me home. When we arrived, he turned the engine off and said, "I have never met a girl like you. No, a woman. You are a woman." He got out, opened my door, and we said our goodbyes. He sat there for a long time after I went inside. And before he had even driven off properly, he called to ask me out again. I accepted. For a second date, he pulled out all the stops, arranged a car, booked something somewhere lovely, and spent the evening trying to prove he was worthy of my time. Silence wrapped in warmth and softness is disarming to a man. It makes him feel safe, respected, and intrigued all at once. The Bible speaks of a gentle and quiet spirit in a woman. This is not weakness. This is power under control. This is how you calm a dynamic without becoming a doormat. This is how you reverse the dynamic and allowing a man to move from testing to pursuing. Point number 4. What happens when we lean forward and let our emotions make us loud? Have you ever felt so wronged by a man that the idea of going quiet or even pulling back felt like self-abandonment, like you were accepting poor treatment or abuse by not reacting strongly? Melissa was dating a Hollywood celebrity. She came to my practice. She was gorgeous. And these were the kinds of men she naturally attracted, but she could never keep one. She and this gentleman had gone to the cinema together, but when they arrived, he became strangely distant and behaved as though they barely knew each other. She let it go at first. Then she noticed his ex-wife was also in the cinema funny, and she assumed that's why he was acting funny. Afterwards, she was furious. She did not want to be played for a fool. She confronted him. He explained that he had also seen paparazzi around. He didn't want her image in the papers connected to any kind of scandal, especially with his ex-wife present. He said he was trying to protect her. Now, these two had been praying together every morning. They were making plans. He had introduced her to his world. He had treated all her friends to dinner on her birthday. I was convinced I was going to be attending another wedding. But when she told me that he had asked her to demonstrate exactly what he had done and said that made her so upset, she indulged him and acted it out. I knew it was over. And it was. You see, he did not ask her to demonstrate it because he needed clarification. He wanted to see how far she would go in disrespecting him once she was emotional. The moment he saw that she would go all the way, the relationship came to a screeching halt. All she needed to do was to air her grievance. When he asked her to demonstrate, simply say, I don't feel comfortable doing that because I cannot imagine a way of showing you without being disrespectful. I hope me telling you how hurt I felt is enough for us to move forward safely. What do you think? That response would have got her the ring. She thought that after everything they had shared, he should have understood and let it go. I had to explain to her that the more a man has to offer, the less tolerance he has for disrespect of any kind. Not because he is arrogant, but because access to beautiful, sweet women is not a problem for him. Here's the lesson. If a man has the world to give a woman, he will not overlook disrespect. He may not walk at the second or third sign, he will walk at the first. Women often assess relationship by the sum total of the good times, then decide if one bad moment is enough to ruin everything. High quality men often think differently. They assess how you show up when things are difficult because that tells them whether what they're building with you is safe. He is the investor. He needs to know that his investment in you will produce a predictable return. Only low-value men overlook inconsistent disrespect because they often have little to lose. So here's the truth. A woman does not need to lose her voice in a loving relationship with a man. She does not need to become docile or passive or easily manipulated in order to keep a man or turn a connection into commitment. What she does need is discernment. She needs to understand which communication style gets her the results she actually wants. She needs to stop mirroring masculine energy and stop assuming that being louder or faster or more emotional will make a man understand her better. Mastering the art of falling back, pulling back, and using silence appropriately is one of the most powerful communication tools a woman has when it comes from a regulated place rather than an anxious one. Used well, it does not weaken your position, it strengthens it. And this is where most women still get it wrong. They hear things like pull back or be quiet and either do nothing or they go cold, distant, and passive aggressive. That is not what I'm teaching. What I'm teaching is strategic softness, regulated boundaries, feminine communication that protects your dignity and increases his investment. You do not need more random rules. You need the right framework. If you're ready to do this properly and want guidance step by step, then follow the link in the description and join Soulmate Lux. This is where we take everything I have taught you today and apply it to a specific situation so you can move from dating to commitment with clarity and confidence. In the meantime, do take care of you. Love you lots.